Hi, we are Eccentric Robotics, and in this video we are going to present our implementation of the challenge presented by Manchester Robotics.
To achieve this, we needed to create a system where a motor could receive input commands, process them through a micro-ROS node running on the ESP32, and generate a measurable output that we could later analyze. We also needed to understand how the motor responds to different input signals and what kind of behavior it exhibits in terms of speed, stability, and timing.
The first step was to assemble the physical system. This included connecting the rotary encoder to the microcontroller and the motor to its corresponding driver. Once that was done, we configured communication using micro-ROS with a node that could send commands to the motor and simultaneously publish and filter the measured data with a moving average filter to reduce noise. So the system now receives input commands, the motor responds to those commands, and the generated data can be observed in real time. With the system operating correctly, the next step was to study the motor's behavior through experimentation. To do this, we performed several experiments that allowed us to obtain information about the system's dynamics. In the first experiment, we analyzed the relationship between the input applied to the motor and the resulting response, identifying a linear operating range from -1 to 1. Likewise, when analyzing the responses under different sweeps, we did not observe noticeable differences in the system response, which allowed us to determine the absence of significant hysteresis within the operating range, aside from the effects of dead zone and saturation. During this process, we identified the presence of a dead zone close to 0.04. Subsequently, we obtained the body diagrams in order to graphically identify the system's cutoff frequency, which was found to be 14.5 Hz. Based on this value, we calculated an appropriate sampling frequency using the method proposed by Fadali and Visioli in 2013, which recommends selecting a sampling frequency between 5 and 10 times the cutoff frequency. Using this guideline, we selected a sampling frequency of 90 Hz. For the PID design, we first used the Smith method in 1972, which allowed us to identify the following transfer function. Subsequently, we used the Chien-Rose-Resquith method 1952 for a 0% overshoot design and obtained the following controller parameters: KD equals 0.1265 and TI equals 0.0695. Once the PID parameters were obtained, an anti-wind-up mechanism was incorporated to improve controller behavior under actuator saturation. For this purpose, an integral clamping strategy was implemented, which limits the integral action when the control signal reaches the saturation bounds. This approach prevents excessive accumulation in the integral term and contributes to maintaining stable controller performance within the actuator operating limits. Additionally, a moving window filter was incorporated to reduce noise in the measured signal. This filter computes the average of the most recent samples within a fixed window, smoothing short-term fluctuations while preserving the general behavior of the signal. By applying this filtering range, the measurement used by the controller becomes less sensitive to noise, contributing to a more stable control response.
Now we can move on to analyzing the results. We implemented a custom ROS2 node called metrics node that analyzes the motor response in real time by computing standard control metrics. Each time a new step in the set point is detected, the node resets the analysis. From that point, it processes the signal sample by sample, calculating integral error, overshoot, rise time, and settling time, and publishing the results continuously. The node uses a custom message defined in the control metrics message package. Using the controller gains we obtained from our earlier calculations, the motor reaches the desired set point without overshoot and with a very short settling time of around 0.3 seconds. This settling time was reduced slightly further after minor adjustments to the proportional gain. Overall, the system successfully demonstrated stable and predictable motor control using micro-ROS on the ESP32. Through experimentation, modeling, and controller tuning, we achieved a fast and well-damped response, while also developing useful tools for real-time performance analysis.